Hello everyone, my name's Jenny Noble from AAPI, and thanks so much for joining us today for this webinar, Harnessing Telehealth to Achieve Measurement-Based Outcomes. I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet and paying my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I live and work on lands of the Gadigal people, but I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. As usual, we've allowed time at the end for Q&A, so please add your questions or comments via the chat box. The session's being recorded and I'll email you in a day or so advising how to access the link. And now I'd like to introduce you to our presenter, Sophie Kessler, who is representing Australia's leading telehealth provider, Coviu. As a virtual care specialist, Sophie works closely with the organisation and several research teams to bring greater awareness to Coviu's secure and feature-rich virtual care engagement platform. Previously, Sophie has presented at industry events such as the 22nd Successes and Failures in Telehealth Conference on opportunities for remote patient monitoring in primary care. Sophie is driven by a global mission to make phone and video consultations part of every clinician's toolbox and creating a rich experience that will transform healthcare. So I'm going to hand over now to Sophie. Thanks so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoy this presentation.
Thank you, Jenny. Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining our webinar today on harnessing telehealth to achieve measurement-based outcomes. Please introduce yourself in the comment section. We'd love to know what your specialty is and where you're from. So I'm Sophie Kessler. I represent Australia's top telehealth provider, Coviu. Many of you may already know us. Our software empowers allied health professionals, especially psychologists, to deliver a virtual care experience that mirrors in-clinic workflows. It offers specialised measurement-based tools for psychology, which I'll discuss in detail today. As for my background, as Jenny touched on, I frequently represent Coviu at conferences and online events. My goal is to help practitioners like you maximise the benefits of virtual care for your team and clients, ultimately improving healthcare outcomes efficiently. Coviu has an impressive track record. We support over 90,000 practitioners in conducting more than 9 million telehealth consultations to date. Originally from Australia, we've become a global leader. So we've expanded our operations in the United States. We've evolved beyond a simple telehealth platform. It's now recognised as a measurement-based virtual care platform with a wide range of clinical tools and features to support your needs. So now to the agenda today. We'll quickly talk about how we define measurement-based virtual care. We'll spend some time on best practices of remote assessment delivery and using virtual tools to measure outcomes. We'll look at the advantages of remote assessment delivery, and then I'll show you what it all looks like in practice through Coviu's lens by discussing our virtual toolkit and doing a live demonstration. And at the end, as mentioned, there'll be time for a Q&A. So let's have a little talk about measurement-based virtual care and what exactly that means. So measurement-based care is a fairly common concept for psychologists, but the question here is, how does it apply in a virtual context? The term measurement-based virtual care essentially refers to administering validated outcome measures through the mode of phone or video consultation. So in other words, we're talking about delivering assessments remotely through a virtual care platform. Measurement-based virtual care is very relevant in mental health settings where self-report assessments play a crucial role in understanding the client's objective experiences and monitoring treatment outcomes. So using technology and virtual care platforms, healthcare providers can enhance client outcomes and treatment experiences through efficient measurement-based care. So it involves using standardized assessment tools, including client-reported outcome measures, and patient-reported experience measures, so PREMs and PROMs, through telehealth. And these assessments can cover everything from mental health to quality of life, treatment outcomes, and client satisfaction. So this approach allows providers to track symptoms, identify improvements or deteriorations, and make evidence-based care decisions. And so this really enhances client engagement, and it's advantageous in the sense of having virtual workflows because it enhances assessment integration and enables centralization of data storage. Okay, so on to the main item for today. What are the best practices to deliver measurement-based virtual care? Now, these tips come from researched findings from either CoView's own customer discovery interviews, repeated industry experiences, or clinical evidence that has been published recently. So these practices are essentially clinically proven to improve you and your clients' outcomes through the use of virtual care. So first, I can't say this emphatically enough. There is a huge chasm between the clients we have who invest in their clients pre-consultation versus those who don't. So step one is absolutely critical. Invest in your clients before their first consultation and set expectations to avoid disappointments. So this can be done in a variety of ways, depending on your preferences and what is more suitable to your practice and clients. But generally, we find practitioners that have very successful hybrid clinics send clients info kits, which include checklists with setup tips and information about the consultation process. Some larger enterprises have dedicated telehealth coordinators that run this run this process. However, for a smaller practice, and maybe your administration team or even yourself, simply leveraging a variety of online resources, describing the most important things for a client to consider with their setup. So you can access things like help articles, videos, and more on CoView and Pearson's websites that can really help you to achieve this. Now, in addition to this, we highly recommend investigating the client's setup through a test call. But if this can't be done, you could always send out a form to the client. And one of our customers, who you can see on the left-hand side here, Kira from Toolbox Psychology, has got this process really down pat. So Kira really assesses her clients' environments from their digital setup to their general home or work setting to ensure that they are ready to go in the test call. This can really help iron out any kinks and, of course, make the client more comfortable, as well as ensure family and support members are prepared and on board before a call. So you can see what Kira has said here about the process and how it's really benefited her, saying by the time I get to the assessment, we've already figured out in really practical terms what that looks like in their house and how it's going to work for them. So the next thing is that although a growing body of evidence does suggest that for many clinical uses, virtual consultations is just as effective as in-person consultations when done in accordance with best practices, we absolutely recognise that not every situation is suitable for virtual care. In fact, the future of healthcare is very much looking forward to fall under a hybrid or blended care model. So that means it's really important to have a method to determine when it's more appropriate to administer a virtual consultation versus an in-person consultation. I really like the way PwC's healthcare team actually summarised this in their Australian Virtual Health Consumer Survey. They summarise the decision-making process quite well because they divide it into two categories. And the first involves determining the clinical requirements of the upcoming interaction and then weighing it in the second instance against the patient's preferences and technical capabilities. So that's really important because they make sure that you're involving the client in the decision-making, discussing the advantages and limitations of both options. And so just to give you an example of what kinds of questions you could ask to do this would be, so when you're talking about determining the clinical requirements, you can ask questions such as, does the clinical service being provided require the patient to attend face-to-face consultation? So is there a physical examination that's involved? In the instance of psychology, it may be more that the patient has a sensitive situation where it would be much better for them to be in person, of course. The second is, does the clinical pathway require the patient to attend face-to-face? So do you need an initial appointment to establish relationship and baseline measures? The third is, does the patient's condition require the patient to attend in person? So there might be some psychological barriers to online participation, or there actually could be as well in psychology, of course, physical barriers, mobility issues, why it might be more appropriate to take a video call. And then weighing it up against their preferences, you could be asking things like, what is their digital capability, what is their ability to access technology, their health literacy, their ability to attend appointment independently, and basically the patient's choice, which is really key. So we have a customer, Eat, Speak, Learn. They're an integrated allied health practice for kids. You can see the quote here on the left-hand side from Chris, their co-founder. He estimates that about 20% of his consultations are virtual, but he really believes almost anything can be done virtually. Having said that, they've done a terrific job of simplifying this clinical appropriateness methodology into 3 questions. So they ask, would they be able to get better engagement from the child and the family? If in what instance? Is the child or patient more likely to attend a virtual service than an in-person session? And then finally, they ask, can we help more people achieve better health outcomes through the delivery mode that we're choosing? So I like this because it really simplifies down what I was talking about, and Eat, Speak, Learn have had a lot of success with getting terrific clinical results with their patients. So the next thing is to be prepared to mitigate technology issues before they arise. We've touched on this, but we're going to dive into it more. This really translates to make sure you have both got the right digital setup for the consultation. So it's recommended to record technical difficulties as well, such as lags, if they occur during your call in your clinical notes. Pearson recommend recording nuances if there are, for example, syncing issues, especially as a result of connectivity on one end between assessments, for example. You can also try refreshing the call if there are difficulties. And in the worst case scenario, you can switch to a phone call to see if you can troubleshoot that way, especially if you have a virtual care platform like CoView, which does have a phone option if you can't do a video call. So in addition to this, just generally having a checklist handy on the practitioner's end for common technical challenges or scenarios with go-to troubleshooting options is highly recommended. So you can see what some of our customers have said here. Kira says she always covers internet speed before starting the assessment. Tom says that one of his concerns is that with the picture span subtest and number subtest, there may be a lag between his screen and that of the examinee. And the way that he deals with that is, of course, by recording it in his notes, as we discussed. So let's dive even deeper into the technical setup of assessments. So I want to give you a few practical tips. So internet speed is really important. You can do internet speed checks quite easily these days. You need to ensure a minimum of 350 kilobytes per second upload and download speed for each participant. And actually with CoView, there is an inbuilt feature to test this, so that's really handy. It's important to note as well that the bandwidth requirement grows as more guests are added to your calls. So the other thing is audio. Directional microphones are recommended for both client and practitioner as they filter out background noise. It's always good to do a sound check as well before you start. And another thing to check is that the latest version of the client and practitioner's browser is installed. You can actually check this by going to whatismybrowser.com. It's a really handy tip that I learned when I first delved into virtual care, and it's really handy. And lighting is also really important. So practitioners can invest in low-cost ring lights that illuminate people's faces over video. They can be purchased online for a pretty reasonable price. So it's something to consider. And importantly, both parties need either internal or external webcams, headphones, mics, and at least one laptop each. Now, by way of example, Eat, Speak, Learn, who I just mentioned, they really try to deal with these technical issues prior to calls by asking clients, parents, and support members preliminary questions during their onboarding sessions. So these tailored questions about the client's digital setup include things like, what browser is being used? What do you do when it goes wrong? And what's your internet speed? And the practice has found that by doing planning and preparation with clients, it has saved them significant time and costs with clear expectations set around what a telehealth appointment looks like. And so that means a common understanding that things can go wrong with technology, and they do. And so you have to be prepared for it, and it can be really worthwhile. Okay. So the next thing is I want to talk a little bit about creating an environment that holds your client's focus. So essentially, how do you deal with clients that might have some attention difficulties in an online environment when you're doing assessments? So there are two key things here. The first is just to break up assessments into shorter segments at the psychologist's discretion. And secondly, as with any testing session, the practitioner should do anything possible to make sure the client's environment is free from audio and visual distractions. So if the practitioner is unfamiliar with the client's planned physical location, that initial visual tour of the intended testing room that we've spoken about can be absolutely critical. From that, the practitioner can provide a list of issues for the client or their guardians to address to transform the environment into one suitable for testing. So for example, they should silence all electronics and close doors, ensure a young sibling is occupied elsewhere during the call. The practitioner could also confirm that these issues have been addressed at the time of testing. So if possible, the client should also be positioned facing away from the door to ensure that a practitioner can verify through the client's camera that the door remains shut and can monitor any interruptions. So positioning is really important. And the practitioner could confirm also that all other applications on the computer, laptop, or peripheral device are closed, the keyboard is moved aside or covered after the session is connected, and alerts and notifications are silenced on the peripheral device. Radios, televisions, cellular phones, fax machines, smart speakers, printers, any equipment that emit noise should really be silenced or removed from the room. Another thing to consider is how the tests or forms are actually administered in calls. Using control permissions to retain control of the ability to fill out a virtual assessment form in a call until it's appropriate for the client to fill it in is also a handy way to make sure clients stay focused. And yes, Covey does have this feature. So now I want to talk about a little bit more on a technical note, how to deal with subtests with physical requirements. And this is particularly relevant for cognitive assessments. So, of course, some of these assessments do require a physical component. So sometimes it might mean you've got a response booklet that makes up the test, and then there's some blocks or other things that you might need to administer the test. So not all have a physical component, but the WISC-5 and the WACE-4 do. So if you have a trained facilitator on the other end, this works, but it's not recommended to send blocks or booklets to the client. So what do you do in the situation where you don't have a trained facilitator? So as I said, trained facilitator is great. Then you can use physical requirements, but I did just want to go on and touch on this before we talk about untrained, because I just want to preface this by saying that this information comes to us from our partner Pearson, who provides some terrific information on their site about this in detail. And sometimes there will also be a need for written response during a virtual consultation. So where there is a trained facilitator, the facilitator can monitor the child's work and provide the completed response booklet back to the practitioner. Or alternatively, if the examiner wants to view the responses live, the facilitator can help the client turn the laptop camera or computer so that it shows the desktop where the work is being completed. Another method is using a document sharing camera. So the practitioner can, of course, decide what angles they want to view the client and their environment at their discretion. This might be important if there are some difficult behaviours or you're conducting research. But I really encourage you to look at Pearson's website for more information, because they have a terrific body of information that can really help practitioners on this. So in that scenario where you've got an untrained or no facilitator present, we need to use alternative scoring methods. So this means doing tests like the WISC and WACE, but without block design or coding, for example. And there are examples of alternative scoring for the WISC, for example. So you can see this here. Again, highly encourage you to go and look at this in detail on Pearson's website. So it would be useful as well to have a look at this, because you can state in the report, if you do use an alternative scoring method, that a different scoring method was used and that it was considered valid. Okay, so these are some examples of some further resources that you can look into. to understand this in more detail. Okay, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the advantages of measurement-based virtual care. And I'm going to run through some of the overarching benefits of telehealth. So the first thing is that clinicians often find that they have shorter wait lists and they are able to achieve earlier intervention because removing the added logistics of in-person consultations means, of course, that clients can be seen faster. And one of our clients over here says that, early diagnosis is so important, and it's probably the backbone of why we started the college in the first place. So having used virtual care has really, really helped them to achieve this goal. The second thing is that the general ease of access for clients improves. Our client over here said that it's less work in terms of the other factors like the transport and getting people to sessions. And another one of our clients recently said to me that one of the benefits of this is that if a client is going on a holiday, and in their case, we're talking children undergoing a treatment plan, the treatment doesn't have to be interrupted because they can just take a video call overseas or wherever they're vacationing. Also, where family members need to be involved, the benefit of just being able to dial into a video call is gold. So no more trying to juggle a child's treatment needs amongst busy work schedules. In addition to that, this practitioner over here has said that they've really experienced an expanded clinical footprint, saying that there's obviously a financial and cost benefit there that I get through CoView. So you do reach more clients through virtual care. The next is that, and I think this one really stands out for mental health practitioners, but the engagement you can get through a video call can actually be better than in person. And so for our client over here, she says that she's got some children who respond better to telehealth because it's on the screen and they love screens. However, this also can translate to better engagement for adults, of course, during a psych session, particularly when you're discussing highly emotional and potentially exhausting matters. So one of our Canadian clients recently told us that in their recent client survey, clients preferred doing video calls because of the comfort of discussing topics in their homes, leading to better engagement overall. And I'm going to go back into this in a second and just dive a little deeper into what engagement looks like with teleassessments. But finally, and not exhaustively, the administering of measurement-based tools via telehealth just gives you a whole new level of flexibility and efficiency. And the client here told us that she was able to reach clients from outside her local area. But in general, using virtual care means you can get a better work-life balance for your practitioners as well, and really iron out some of those inefficiencies in your workflows, which ideally should lead to cut costs in both time and money. And of course, being able to do this means that we can respond better to staff shortages and staff burnout. So it's a really great tool. So I did just want to go a little bit more into a case study talking about engagement. And our client here, Tom, is the director of Ecology, which is psychological testing for school children. And Tom really reiterates the point that engagement can be better administering assessments via virtual care, saying there have been cases where parents were not able to get their children to a face-to-face session, but they agreed to a telehealth one. And super important to note is that Tom notes that children with social difficulties in particular respond really well to online assessments. So children may feel more comfortable in their home environment. They might be therefore calmer and not engage and can engage much better with the assessment. So when we're talking about clients that may not be able to leave their homes because of the impact of depression or anxiety, or may not open up as much in person, this is a huge advantage for psychologists. Additionally, it's crucial to note that there's a huge range of other benefits. So some of them here that I can talk to is that there's a huge value of remotely recording and longitudinally graphing outcomes for psychologists. Particularly, this kind of data becomes a valuable asset when communicating with organisations such as the NDIS and My Aged Care. It provides objective evidence of a client's progress, treatment effectiveness, and well-being. And that evidence supports the need for ongoing therapy, care plan adjustments, or access to additional resources. So sharing this information with these organisations is pivotal in advocating for telehealth's advantages as well, and expanding access to measurement-based virtual care. And the practice of Eat, Speak, Learn, who we've discussed throughout this presentation, exemplifies this approach. So they really use their outcomes to communicate with NDIS about the advantages of telehealth and how their clients are going. And, you know, it's really worth highlighting how improved outcome measurements in psychology shape the field's future. They enable evidence-based practices, enhance treatment outcomes. You know, they inform treatment planning, foster accountability, facilitate research and quality initiatives, and, you know, they support collaborative care models, which really we believe are the way of the future. So all of these advancements increase the overall effectiveness and efficiency of psychological interventions, resulting in enhanced client care and optimized resource allocation. Okay, so now I really want to show you what a measurement-based toolkit looks like within Covi's browser-based software. And I want to acknowledge, of course, that there are other platforms out there that you can explore with remote assessment capabilities. So just to give you a little bit of a rundown, I touched on these points in the intro, but yes, we spun out of CSIRO in 2018 and we went nuts after the pandemic hit. Our usage actually grew over 6,000% during that time. But more importantly, we were entirely purpose-built for healthcare, and there was a lot of emphasis on the needs of allied health professionals in the initial development of CoView. So fast forward to now, this means that not only are there over 50 clinical tools and features designed to both complement and replicate your existing clinical workflows, but there is just an overarching ease of use associated with CoView, which you'll see soon. And that's because clients don't have to download anything. They just join via an SMS or email link, and everything is browser-based. And so we also meet the very stringent privacy and security standards required for psychologists because we're HIPAA compliant, we're ISO 27001 accredited, and our calls are data end-to-end encrypted, super important. So in our apps marketplace, you find all the additional tools and features that you can add on top of whatever subscription level you have with us. And the main apps we're talking about today, of course, are remote assessments. So the way they work with CoView is you get a simple digital form accessible immediately on screen from your CoView meeting room. It's quick and easy for clients to self-administer the questionnaire. Responses are automatically scored and some are interpreted in real time, which you'll see in the live demonstration. And so then these results are neatly stored in a downloadable PDF format for offline viewing and backed up in CoView's cloud storage. And some of the tests, for example, the DAS, can be automatically downloaded into a data collection section in the back end of your CoView dashboard. And in fact, you can configure your settings, which I'll show you as well, so that when you're creating customizable forms, you can also configure them to be stored into your data collection section. So it's only envisaged that this will grow and improve as well. And at the moment, it's a terrific platform for remote assessment delivery. And so I just want to show you some of the types of assessments that we have available in CoView calls. We have some available through our long-term partner, Pearson. They're the gold standard industry assessment provider. I'm sure you've all heard of them. So it's really amazing that we have them integrated into our call interface, depending on the apps you have as part of your plan. So I've made a distinction today between mental health tests and then cognitive neuro tests. So these are the mental health suite, otherwise known as the Beck suite. And so these ones, the digital stimulus books, are part of our suite. And now the mental health suite of the Pearson apps are more like tests, of course. And so these technically fall in the category of prompts. So they work pretty neatly in the app as there are options to hand control over to the client so that they can self-report on their condition. And then the practitioner can take back control when appropriate. This scoring is oftentimes live, but only seen on the practitioner end. So that obviously makes it a more sensitive client experience and minimizes distractions. So these assessments all have about 20 to 21 items each. They're self-report measured and they can generally be filled in about 5 minutes. So now I'm sure, we're familiar with the neurocognitive ones as well, which are more like exams, which we're talking about in the physical requirement section of best practices. And so we've got all of these different ones here. We've now also just got the KTEA 3. And as you can see, 2 of them here have digital administration, which I will explain in a second. And so basically, I'll just go to the next slide here and explain what they look like in the core. So they present in the interface as an embedded digital stimulus book like this, and you can hide the view from the client. So this allows you to display the stimulus book in the core without leaving the core. And the core can the client can either give verbal answers or point with their mouse. So while you administer the test, you ordinarily need a record form and a manual to read from for most of our assessments, although now, as I was just mentioning, we have some administrative functionality for some of our tests, the KTEA and KBID in Australia so far, which is going to grow. And that's terrific because that means that you don't have to glance down and lose eye contact or rapport with the client. For the ones that don't have digital administration yet available, you can use an iPad instead of the paper material too. And of course, you might need some other physical items in your testing. So you might need a stopwatch depending on the test as well. So there's also a number of other digital mental health tests you can access from within the core. And these are some of them here. And these operate similar to the Pearson Beck suite in the sense of being able to be downloaded. You can see over here with this GIF, and we're going to have a look at that in a live demonstration in not too long. So something that I think is really terrific that we have, the world is your oyster with customizable forms. They can be filled in pre and during the call, and you can literally use these for whatever you need. So you could use these for intake or consent forms, or you could use these to capture prems and do informal assessments. So that's really great. You can do treatment planning, progress tracking, and outcome measurement with them. And these forms can be tailored to meet the specific needs of each client, allowing psychologists to gather relevant information, assess symptoms, and evaluate outcomes effectively. And you can build them out however you want. So they're very flexible. There's lots of different fields, and we'll have a look at them in our live demonstration, which is just about to come up. So this is where we get to do a live demo. And before we go into that, these are some of the things that I'm going to be covering. But what I'm going to do is essentially take you through a chronological workflow, similar to what I showed you at the start about what measurement-based care is, so you can get a feel of what all of this looks like in practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over here, and we've now essentially logged into the CoView account. And so as you can see, as a psychologist, I'm looking at my dashboard and I'm seeing on my browser all of these features. And as you can see, it's browser-based. So this works on almost any browser, by the way, and we can centralize multiple clinics under the one virtual clinic. So on the left-hand side, we have a number of settings and configurations from the types of rooms we have to dashboard collections, so you can see data collections, and reporting to payment options. So reports, billing and plan, and all of that. And customizable forms are here, so you can build them out, making it easy for you. And now important to show is when I scroll down a little, you can see this configure. That's a settings feature that allows you to really customize your experience depending on what level of subscription you have. And the level I have, because I'm in premium, allows me to make very tailored changes to my clinic and really fine-tune the workflows that I want. So now I have a scheduling feature over here, and you can see that there's something scheduled in for 12:29 to 3:29 p.m. And that's a great feature for me to be able to keep track, and for everyone in my clinic to keep track of where our appointments are. And so today, though, I'm going to be having a session with Nick, who has been referred to me with suspected depression, but I'm going to bring him in from our waiting area. So over here, you can see who's waiting, who's on hold, and who's being seen, and I can see that someone's waiting. And there's Nick. He's been waiting for a really long time. So I'm sorry for Nick, but the good thing about our waiting area is that we can actually read notes that have been written by our admin staff or anyone who's been checking in with Nick. If he's been waiting a long time, and he can get bumped up to the queue because of that feature. And if Nick was a scheduled session, I could have sent him a reminder as well. I just want to note that as well, because we do reminders, but he has accessed this through a link that he's been given, and I'm able to start the session by clicking join. So I just want to say that before I joined, that the waiting room function is really unique to us, and you can configure it to suit your workflow. So the way I've set it up is that I can see who's being seen and who is waiting. And as I said, a receptionist or admin person can join in the call to greet, identify, or triage. So your team members can also adapt alerts to notify when a caller has entered the queue. And I've got my waiting room set up right now so that Nick has filled out some basic info on entering and is watching a cool little video from Tonic Media that features health and wellness advice from Norman Swan. And he can sit there and watch that until I enter the call. So now I'm going to enter the call. Okay. So we're starting the call. All right, and so hopefully everyone can see that. That's basically what I'm seeing before I enter, and I've set it up so that I'm automatically muted and I'm automatically not showing my video for the purposes of this webinar. So we're just going to enter a call now. And we're connecting with Nick. Okay, terrific. Okay, so Nick's here. Hi, Nick. He's waving. Okay, great. So now you're looking at the interface here, and you can see that there are a number of applications that might access on the right-hand side. So here we go. We've got all these terrific applications here. And the first thing I want to do is get Nick's consent. So what I can do is I can go down and I can click client details, and a consent form opens up like this, which is great. And I'll give Nick the ability to edit. So he's filling this out, and this is something that I can save and download on the right-hand side, and I can get his initial details. Now, something a little bit more exciting is that after we've got his initial details, I can ask him a couple of questions in a clinical interview just to assess his overall well-being and circumstances that might be contributing to his condition today. So I'm going to administer that now. And as I do it, you can see that the list of running applications that I've got come up in the right-hand side, which is really handy for me to keep track and also flick between them if I want. So now again, I'm going to give Nick control. So this is a customizable form that I prepared earlier. By no means is it a clinically validated tool. It's just for the purposes of this webinar, but you can see that I've been able to do multiple choice fields about his mental health history and his personal circumstances. I've been able to do some fields here that he can fill out, which are capped to a certain amount of characters, because that's also something that you can do if you wish. And it gives you a prompt, obviously turning up red if they haven't filled it out. And here's editing. I can take back editing control if I need, of course, because I can change the editor here. I've got the signature box as well that he can use. So this is a really handy way to get information. And I've got this set up in my configure section that I showed you all in the beginning on the left-hand side of the initial clinic interface. I've got this set up in there that this will be saved automatically in my data collections as well as a PDF. So when I click save and download, I'll be able to do that. Now what I'm going to do is I want to administer the DAS21 test. So I have a little bit of a better idea now as to where we're headed in this session. And I'm going to click this, and the form is loading, and Nick is able to fill it out. Now, this is one where you get real-time results. So as Nick fills this out, you'll be able to see whether the depression, anxiety, and stress will automatically update, and then you can download it. If you ever have an issue with this, it could just be a connectivity thing. But yeah, you can see there's a bit of a lag today, but that's really just to do with connectivity. And you can see I'm able to adjust my session because I'm knowing quite quickly where we're headed with this. And he cannot see this real-time scoring, of course. So this is hidden to Nick. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to have a look at Nick's cognitive processing a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into one of Pearson's standard tests, the WACE test. So I'm going to go on this side, and I'm going to click here. Now it's just loading. Now we're in the WACE. Now on Nick's end, and of course I can't show this, but he can't see much of what I can see. So it's a very minimized interface for him. He's really just looking at this book. And so I can click through in various ways. I can go through like this, or I can go through like that, through the arrows. And essentially I can choose whether I want to annotate, and I can hide my annotations, and I can hide that from Nick's view. And you can see N for Nick over here. So when we do engage in an activity, when he clicks, I can see where his clicks are, and it all is recorded. But in this instance, we're not seeing the digital administration prompts. But if we did have digital administration prompts in the test, say for the K-bit, you would actually see those prompts coming up rather than having to look down, as I said, and Nick would not be able to see that. So now, having done all this, I'm going to diagnose Nick with mild depression, and I want to explain my diagnosis to him in a way that will make sense for him. So I'm going to use my screen sharing capabilities. So I can start a screen share, and I'm not actually going to do this now, but you can just imagine I can click on that, and I could show him, for example, the Beyond Blue website, and say this is a resource for you to read a little bit more about your condition. Now I might want to show him a video. So maybe there's something I like to use to explain things through YouTube, so I can actually directly have YouTube embedded in here. Or I could screen share a file directly from my computer. So a PDF potentially. There might be some resources that I want to show him doing that. And now another great feature is an explanatory tool we often use is the whiteboard. And the whiteboard feature, both Nick and I can draw on. And so, I might want to explain to him a little bit more about what's going on, or make a little bit of a plan with him, or a board about some goals, whatever it might be. And we can work on that together. So it's really engaging. And then I can click up here and I can download that, and I can store that. And then, of course, I could email what we've done, or I could keep that in my records. So it's a really great feature. And we often hear from our clients that one of the things that they missed in the virtual environment was using items like a whiteboard. But now, of course, they can do it on our platform, which is really cool. Finally, I'm going to show you something that I love. And I'm going to assume Nick speaks another language. And so he needs a little bit more explanation about what's going on for him. So we have this terrific feature, which is through our partnership with 2M Language Services. And we can access with this little click down here, we can get an interpreter. So I'm just going to go back into that. We can actually call in an interpreter on demand through 2M Lingo. So this is very fast access to live NADI qualified medical interpreters to over 250 languages. It includes Auslan and Indigenous varieties. So it's a fabulous feature to have. And, we can also bring in additional support members. family members, other medical practitioners treating Nick. Again, really collaborative model of care. Over here, we've got a few different options, different background settings and fun little things that you can do as well. And with the group therapy, I should note actually that you can host up to 20 people in one call with our group functions. So that's really great. So that's taking us to the end of our demo. But I just want to mention one last thing, and that's that if Nick actually can't sustain a video call tonight because he has limited connectivity, and I'm just going to say goodbye to him now. Thank you, Nick. Say thank you, and I'm going to hang up over here. Okay, I'm going to leave that call. Session is finished. Now over here, back into the interface of the waiting area. So if he can't sustain a video call tonight this afternoon, because he has limited connectivity, what we can do instead is a phone call, and we can actually do it through the CoView platform. There he is. So he actually has my phone number, and you can call in or outbound, and it keeps my personal number private, and it keeps everything in the same platform. So it's really good. That's what it looks like. And I'm not going to join, but if I did join, I would click this, and maybe we could troubleshoot some of these technical issues together on the phone. Okay, that's the end of our demo, and we're coming to a close before questions. So before I get to questions, I just want to give you guys the opportunity to scan these case studies. So all of the case studies that we mentioned today, you can find them in either of these case studies, and you can download and really read in detail a lot more about best practices, and you can read a lot more about experiences of clinicians just like you. So I'm just going to give you about another 10 seconds to scan. And yes, I hope you've learned some valuable information tonight to take away and improve your delivery of virtual care. I think now what I'm going to do is just click here and let you know that before we go into questions, I want you to know that if you use this code tonight, we are offering AAPI members 15% off annual plans with this code AAPI15 off. So this code is valid for new AAPI members who sign up for any CoView annual plan, or for members who need to renew their plan. And it's valid until the end of this year, 31st of December. And it includes a 2-week free trial with no credit card required. I'll come back to that now, but I'll go to questions.
Thanks, Sophie. That's fabulous information. I haven't got any questions yet.
So makes it easy for me.
That's right. So just if anyone has questions, just pop them in the chat for us. That would be great. And when I send out the email with the link to the recording, I'll pop all those links as well, so that if you've missed scanning or missed some of those links, you'll have access afterwards.
No, that's great. If anyone does want to reach out and has some questions after this, of course, they can reach out to our team as well. And I know that our team would love to help. You can see the contact details here. So sometimes you think of something afterwards.
Yeah,
of course.
But again, I'll pop that email in the email. Sometimes it's afterwards. Should have asked that. Okay, so we don't have any questions coming through. You must have covered it all for them, Sophie.
It feels like it. I hope, I hope that it's been a valuable experience for everyone. And thank you so much for your time, Jenny, as well, and everybody who's attended.
No problem.
You want to, I was going to say, anyone who wants to try it out for yourself, you feel free to scan this QR card as well and put in that code. And you can always get a demo one-on-one as well through our team, and they can go into this in even more detail specifically to your needs. So
great. Okay, we might finish up if there's no questions coming through. Thanks again for your time, Sophie. Thanks for that demo. That was great. Thanks, Nick, to be
Thank
our
you, Nick.
demo buddy. It was really good to see the program in action. I think that's really helpful. So
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having
yeah.
me.
So thank you, and we'll see you all in the next webinar. Thanks.
Have a lovely afternoon. Bye.